This is the Turtle Beach Recon controller for Xbox and Windows 10. If you're a fan of gaming with controllers, then you definitely don't want to miss this one. As far as what you get inside the box, it comes with a little quick start guide, and then they got this really nice quality braided USB-C cable, and it's 10 feet or 3 meters long. So this is a wired controller, so it is nice to have that extra long, high quality cable. Next up, we got a little bit of Turtle Beach swag here, so if you want to slap that on your gaming case or on your console or something like that, that's there for you. And then of course, we've got the controller right here. Now, obviously this is the white version, but they do offer it in black as well if you want to keep a nice neutral, dark color scheme going on. But personally, I really like this white one. I like that it's nice and bright, and then those gray side grips add a nice touch, a nice accent. You've got the black buttons on there. I think it just looks awesome. If you're used to gaming with Xbox controllers, then you know just how perfect that design really is and just how comfortable it can be when it fits in your hand. This is the original Xbox controller, and to this day in 2021, I think this is one of the best designs that you can get your hands on, period. And because I'm such a big fan of this controller design and because I've used it for so long, I was definitely coming into this review of the Recon from Turtle Beach with a little bit of skepticism. I was like, how is it really gonna hold up against a controller like this that in my opinion is almost perfect? And man, let me tell you, I was completely shocked and surprised in a good way. This Recon controller carries over some of the best things from that original Xbox controller design. The ergonomics, the shape, the feel, it is so close. The only thing that I can notice that's any different at all is the Recon feels just a little bit bigger in my hands compared to the original. But it's very subtle. It's not a very big difference. And I would go as far as to say that if you're used to the original Xbox controller design and you want to switch over to the Recon, it's probably going to be a perfectly seamless transition for you. I don't think you're going to have to worry about adapting or getting used to it because it's just that close. I think Turtle Beach absolutely nailed the design of this controller. Let's bust out the scale for a second and take a look at the weight between the two different controllers. So this is the Recon that we're gonna weigh here first, and this one comes in around 228 grams according to this scale. So it's a pretty lightweight design, pretty lightweight controller, but how does that stack up to the original Xbox? So let's just put that one aside, and here comes our original Xbox controller. That one's coming in around 284, 285 grams. So it's significantly heavier, but you gotta keep in mind, this one's wireless and it's got two AA batteries in there. So if we pop those batteries out of here and put it back onto the scale, it comes in somewhere around 237, 238 grams. So even without the batteries, this original design is still around 10 grams heavier than the new Recon. And it is noticeable when you hold it in your hands. With the Recon, you get a pretty similar and familiar button layout if you're used to Xbox controllers. So you've got your X, Y, A, B buttons over here, and they feel almost identical to the original controller over here. And that's a good thing, because I always liked how those buttons felt on that controller, and I've never had an issue with them in terms of durability or anything like that. Looking at these thumbsticks on the Recon, they're really smooth and easy to move around wherever you want them to go, and they're really springy. They pop right back to where they should be. I don't feel like underneath my thumbs they feel like they're over traveling back and forth or anything like that when you let go. They spring right back to a nice neutral position and they're ready to go. And at the same time, there's just enough resistance that it's pretty easy to press down without moving them around too much. So that's also a pretty big plus. The D-pad's quite a bit softer compared to the original controller design, and I actually like it. It's a nice, soft, and easy to move button, whereas the one on the original is really crisp and, I don't know, I think it takes a bit more actuation force to get it to move. This one's nice and easy, and it feels a lot more natural to just kind of roll around and move underneath your thumb. Now up at the front, we've got the traditional RB and LB buttons and also the two triggers like you'd expect on pretty much any controller that's out there these days. It's almost identical once again to this original design. But the difference here is that these buttons on the Recon feel very different compared to this controller here. So what I mean by that is, let's just start out with the RB and the LB first. These are very soft and mushy feeling compared to what you get on the original. So the actuation for when you register a press actually happens near the top of the stroke. But the problem is after that, there's a whole bunch of travel. So like I can keep moving the button after I've registered the click, and it feels like it moves pretty far and kind of pushes into the body of the controller, and it's not really like the most confident feeling, if that makes any sense. And then when you look at the trigger buttons, it's kind of the opposite. Instead of having like a soft mushy feel, they have a really hard stop where they kind of hit the base of the controller and just stop dead in their tracks. So you can basically hear that here. And for comparison, I'll show you what that same thing sounds like over here on the original as well. So the buttons on this one are pretty much silent. You barely hear anything at all. When you flip the Recon over and take a look underneath, things are starting to look pretty different. There's an extra set of buttons down here, and these things are remappable. Is that a word, remappable? You can basically remap these to any button or function that's on this controller. And then you can save it to some different profiles. There's 4 different profiles available on here. That way you can set up some different functions, some different buttons on there, and then just toggle between them using the controller depending on which game you're playing. And I think that is an awesome feature. Customization like that is usually reserved for stuff that's PC only, where you have to jump into software and make all your configurations that way. Now let's talk about the really big feature here with the Recon. Turtle Beach built in their enhanced audio features right into the controller itself. So there's no software to download or anything like that, no drivers or anything crazy. It's physically built right into this thing. So as long as you plug it into your device and start using it, you have access to all that stuff that you normally would need software to take advantage of. And I think that is an awesome design decision. And it's one of the reasons that I'm so excited about this controller. So all we got to do here is take our USB-C cable and plug that in, and it'll start recognizing it right away. I'm using this on Windows, but obviously it's an Xbox controller. Use it on whatever version of Xbox you have. So right away you can see it's lighting up and pretty much ready to go. Now, one of the big things here is the audio controls and the audio features, and in order to get access to those, you have to plug in a headset. So Turtle Beach sent over their Recon 500 gaming headset for me to test out with this. So I'm gonna plug that in right now and then show you some of those features. On either side of our control panel here, we've got some volume controls. This one over here is for the actual overall volume, and then this one is actually your chat mix volume. So it's gonna control just how loud your chat is over top of everything else you got going on, like your game or whatever's in the background. So what's cool about both of these is as you bring these up, they get brighter. So the lights turn on and they get brighter the louder you go. So it gives you some kind of visual representation of how loud things are. So you can kind of glance down and see if you're 50%, 75%, whatever. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we've got a big dedicated button right here for Turtle Beach Superhuman Hearing. And this is an audio feature that basically what it does is it brings out the high notes in the game. So that's usually where footsteps and other subtle audio cues are. So the idea is it's supposed to give you a competitive advantage by letting you hear things that would normally be really difficult to hear. And I will admit that it does work. It does seem to let me hear stuff that I normally struggle hearing, but I also have to say that it makes everything in the game just sound terrible. So I tend to not use it, but I mean, it's there and it does actually make a difference if you do want to take advantage of that and you're okay trashing the rest of your audio quality. So that's what that does. And then over here on the opposite side, there's another big button here, and that's just your microphone mute button. So you can toggle yourself muted or unmuted right on the controller again. So that's awesome. You don't have to reach up on your headset to mute yourself or anything like that. The 2 small buttons in the middle, that's what controls all the other audio features on here. So the first one here is mode and the second one is select. So if I start just by, actually let's turn off Superhuman Hearing first so we can have access to everything. If I start by pressing mode, it's gonna light up the first audio feature. And that first symbol there is your microphone monitoring. So that's gonna control how loud you can hear yourself coming through the speakers on the headset. Really useful feature actually. So the way this works is you press mode to select your audio feature and then you toggle through the different levels or settings by using the select button. So when I press that once, the top little light up here when these 4 lights, the top one lights up to let me know I'm at level 1, and then press it again, level 2, 3, and 4. And that's basically how this system works. You use the mode button to select your audio feature, and then it will light up at the top, and then you use the select to change between the 4 presets that they all have. So if we press it again, we move over to the EQ. By the way, this is the best thing ever. You have access to custom, well, I shouldn't say custom, you've got 4 different preset EQs built right into the controller. So once again, you're not on the PC, you don't have access to software controls, and you can't dive in and make all these custom changes. guess what? You've got this controller and you're on a console, you're on Xbox, you've got that built right in here. And you can take a little bit, you can get a little bit of customization here. You can't get too crazy with it, but right away, if we turn on the EQ, there's 4 different levels that we can choose from, or 4 different preset settings. The first one is just kind of a Turtle Beach signature sound. And by the way, that's my favorite. I just leave it on that all the time. The next one adds a whole bunch of bass, so it's a bass boost. And I think the next one does treble and bass. And this last one's set up to really enhanced vocals and dialogue and stuff like that. Once again, my opinion, I just leave it on that first one, that Turtle Beach signature audio. It sounds amazing, especially on these Recon 500 headphones that they sent over. I'm gonna have to probably do a dedicated review of these so that I can really check out all the features that they have. But yeah, very good combination. Recon 500, Recon controller, can't really go wrong here. And no, by the way, this video is not sponsored. I just really am loving this stuff as I'm testing it out. The next feature on here is your profile. So that lets you toggle through 4 different custom profiles, where if you remapped the buttons on the bottom, that's where you can just kind of quickly toggle through different configurations that you might have set up. And then finally, at the end here, we have a Pro Aim feature. At first, when I first read that, I was like, what is that? So what it basically does is the 4 different levels that you've got here with the Pro Aim, it basically decreases the sensitivity of your thumbsticks, of the aim, when you're zoomed in. So it's kind of like if you're sniping and you're looking down a scope and you're looking at something really long range, you don't always want a really high sensitivity. It can make it difficult to kind of pinpoint something when you're really zoomed in and everything's magnified. So what that does is it gives you 4 different levels that drop the sensitivity. Basically, the higher you go, level 1 to 4 being basically the most reduction that you can get. One of the games that I really like playing with a controller is Rocket League. It actually kind of sucks with a keyboard and mouse, even though I'm a hardcore keyboard and mouse guy. It's one of the games where I just gotta have a controller. So I spent a ton of time on that recently with this Recon, and man, like, it's just so good. It's so good, and like, I've always been a fan of the Xbox controller design. I think I said that before, but it's enough to make me put that aside. Those extra features on here, that extra little bit of size feels a little more substantial in my hands. I love how it feels, being able to have those audio controls and just, on the fly, being able to change stuff if I want to in the game, whatever I'm doing on there. It's just taking things to the next level. I love the buttons. I just love everything about it. If there's one bad thing, it's only those top buttons right there being a little bit mushy and the hard stops on the triggers, but again, it's a pretty minor thing. This thing is doing so much so well that it's easy to overlook that one tiny little drawback. Overall, unbelievable good experience all the way around gaming with this Recon controller. So how much is all this awesomeness gonna cost you? Turtle Beach is asking just $60 US for it. Maybe that sounds like a lot of money for a controller, for gaming, but you know what? For what this thing's offering, I think that's an outstanding deal. Getting all those audio controls and features and the build quality, the buttons, everything that this thing is offering, I think just takes it to the next level, and it is totally worth it. This is one of the easiest things that I've ever reviewed to recommend. Like, I can recommend this hands down all day long. You should get one if you like gaming with a controller. It's that simple. $60 US. Purchasing links are going to be down in the description. I'm gonna tell you right now that this Recon is completely replacing my other Xbox controller that I use regularly. This is now my main gaming controller. I absolutely love it, and the only way I am ever gonna put this down and replace it is if Turtle Beach figures out a way to make this thing wireless. If you let me cut the cord and have the freedom of wireless without losing any audio quality or anything due to bandwidth limitations and stuff like that, if they can figure out how to do that, I don't even care how much they ask for it. I'm buying it because it would be just absolutely epic and amazing. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you leave us a comment down below. Tell us what you think about this Recon controller, and get subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And we'll see you.